So I've been pretty busy, as you can see. I've got the cab on the frame. I've done all sorts of other little bits and bobs, as you can tell, which add up to make quite a lot of work. I've had 2 weeks off work holiday, so I've been pretty busy on it because I don't like being bored. I mean, I could do other things that are more practical and important, but they're not as fun. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, I think I'll start at the front and work my way back. So I've got the 4 Series kit properly mounted on the cab now. I even put the headlights in. Obviously there's no bulbs. I just put them in there to mock it up, but the bulbs obviously go in. And then behind there's little catches. So you've got 5mm there and 3mm there. And I think down there they're 5mm on the bottom there as well. So yeah, obviously this 4 Series kit is from Italy. It's made by a guy off Facebook who does lots of 3D printed parts. That's not 3D printed. I've got a feeling that's made the same way that the T-cab bonnets are made by the guy in France. I think these are cast in resin. I could be wrong, but they're not 3D printed because you can see, unless he's put a lot of filler on top of that, because they're nice and smooth. I had to modify it slightly because it's not made for a Hercules cab, it's made for a Tamiya cab, and they're near enough identical, but there are a few small differences here and there, which only require minor sanding and cutting and small things like that. So I think it looks pretty snazzy, something a bit different. The big thing with this cab, I think I explained in the previous video, was with a Hercules cab they have opening doors. Now the doors aren't made for this at all. The hinge relies on the stock. I think this is the wind deflector, and they rely on the stock wind deflector, which obviously this isn't. So I had to make my own hinges. Now this isn't by any means the best work I've done, but they do work, and they do open up pretty good distance. And then inside, I've just thrown the interior in. It's all stuck in with tape and bits of blue tack. Well, the seats and the dashboard are, the floors screwed in. But it gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. I'm most likely going to leave this left-hand drive just because it has all of the little details already there, including that, which is the mount for the mirror that looks down the curb. And I guess I could fill that in, but I don't know, I feel like, again, something a bit different. So yeah, I got all that mounted. Got proper Michelin tyres. Don't know if you can read that. Yes, eventually I will get a white pen and fill that in, but I'll wait for that. And aluminium wheels. So something a bit different. My other 2 trucks have got on the normal Tamiya rims, the plastic ones, and they've got normal Tamiya tyres. So I thought I'd try something a bit different. Something else with the Hercules kit is this comes pre-cut. So, and it has a lens and a little LED holder in the kit, so I'm going to use that. Obviously, I don't know if that's supposed to be a marker light or an indicator. I think that's a marker light because the indicator's there. So, I'll obviously that's a long way away yet, but I will wire the lights up eventually. And also the door handle goes in those 4 holes. As I say, I'm going to cut the ceiling out like I did on the T-cab, and I'm going to incorporate the sunroof. So I'm going to make an acrylic window that'll go on top. And then when you look in, you can see the light coming down through the sunroof. So that's a plan. As I explained, it's on a 6x2 tag rigid. It's going to be a flatbed. I have the tag lift working. I had some help from a friend who's doing the same thing. It's not difficult really. You just buy a pusher axle, and then you put a servo in there just behind the X cross member, and then just connect it to that pusher axle. They come with a hole drilled in the middle, so you just put an arm to connect the servo to the axle. And then if you cut these springs, the leaf spring mounts, it makes the axles independent from one another. So when you lift this axle, it doesn't push that axle down, because if you don't cut the leaf spring, what happens is when it's like a seesaw. It does that, so the whole truck raises up, which I don't want. And try, as you can see from these side panels that I've made, I want it to be quite low. So that's what I'm trying to do. So if you cut them, they become independent, as you can see. Obviously file that down because it's quite sharp. And then you get a fully independent suspension. Now the only snag then is that when you lift this axle up, all the weight from the back of the truck is sat on this axle, which compresses the shocks. So what you would find if you just put one spring in there is when this axle goes up, theoretically when it goes up, the whole truck drops. So I had to actually solid mount them. I know some people have gotten away with just putting more springs in, but I couldn't do that for some reason. I mean, I put like 3 springs, which is difficult to put in. You know, if you make a mistake, it flings up and you get springs flying everywhere. So what I've actually done is put a bolt in there, so it's now completely solid. There's no suspension at all. When that axle drops, this wheel is slightly lower than that one. It's still, obviously the drives still touch the ground, but it's just enough to give that shock a bit of suspension compression. So that's what I am still working out. I think I might end up changing that, but who knows. As I said, I've made these 2 boxes. Whether they're final or not, I don't know. I just wanted to try and make... I had the material. It's just plasticard. I don't like using glue. I've had a lot of mistakes in the past using glue, so if I can avoid it, I do. So I just made these little tabs. It's the same way I made the box on my tipper. So underneath the tipper trailer, if you've seen that video, there's a black box which has got all the electronics in, and I made it the same way as this. So I just get a Stanley knife or a crafting knife and a ruler, and just score and snap these sheets because you get perfect straight lines. I haven't got any form of bandsaw or jigsaw or anything like that. All I've got is a Dremel with a wheel, but you can't really cut straight lines with that because you're constantly doing this motion. I don't know. So, but yeah, with this I don't have to use power tools, and it gives you a nice crisp straight line. So that's what I cut these out of. Now, as I said, they might not be final. I put some marker-like mounts in. I'm missing 2 bezels, but they will look like that. Just because I had them spare, so I'll put another bezel in there and there. And then I'll have all this space in here for the electronics. So at the minute it's set up on a basic ESC, just because I got a couple of meetings coming up, a local one and a slightly bigger one further up country, which I'm planning on taking this to, just to sort of show what I'm doing. And I wanted it to drive. So it's obviously it's got no sounds and no lights right now. That will all come in the future, and obviously it's not painted. But mechanically it's there. And yeah, all of these are Michelin tyres apart from the inners, because they're expensive. Very expensive. But they are cool. And they are officially licensed. So yeah, I will get a white pen and fill them in at some point. So yeah, I got these 2 boxes, which is just going to be used for all the electronics in the future. So it's going to have 2 speakers and obviously the battery. I think I'm going to put another beer unit in here like I did on my T-cab. But you know, we'll see what happens in the future, time and money. Still got to make the rear end for it, so I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that yet. And well, I've got a picture that I'm going off of. Actually, I'll show you that in a minute. But I need to make that up, and I'm planning on making out of this stuff again as well. So there's not a ton more to show you. Obviously, I still got to do all the lights, all the paint. I've got to make the deck, so the deck is going to be as low as possible to this. Basically, the bottom of the deck itself will probably be just above that tyre, because that's in the high position at the minute. Actually, let me show you the tipper working. I meant axle, not tipper. So it's in its up position at the minute, and if I hit the switch, it just slowly drops down. And now it's in its low position. Now this isn't level, so don't mind the weird, you can probably tell it, bows in the middle. This is my workspace, it's just on top of a set of drawers. So now in its low position, show you in better light. So it's just that arm connected to the axle, so when I hit switch, which is difficult to do when filming on your phone, it drops down and then it's on the ground, and then when you go back up, that's all it is. And with different radio systems you can channel it to be slow or fast. I think slow's better because obviously in real life they're air, so it's not like it just goes instantly up and down. And I use a Spectrum DX6E 6 channel, which I use for all my models. because I'm the only one that drives them. I mean, I let my dad drive them once, but it was probably the most terrifying experience of my life, even though he did a fine job. So I only have one controller and I can just flip between the models on the menu. So that's the deal with that. It's not too difficult really. It just helps if you buy the right axle. I had to convert that one because it was the wrong one. So I spent a few hours one evening making it work because I got it from China and it took about 2 weeks to get here. So yeah, but I'll just show you what roughly this is going to look like. The rear end of this eventually will look something like that. That is my goal. So obviously it would come back from the wheels straight across and then have this sort of flat face with the tow hook or the tow hitching point, so that I can eventually make a drag unit, and then the deck will overhang it slightly. So that's the ultimate goal. And then the front of the truck will look something like that. Not that colour necessarily, but that visor is going to have a light box above the visor with my name on it, and then 2 Michelin men, and get a proper Vabis wheel, and on the bottom it will have 4 spotlights, and then those 2 little coloured ones, orangey ones, a couple of mud flaps. So that's pretty much the goal. Obviously time and money, and yeah, a lot of patience, but yeah, eventually that's what my target is. So I'll make another video whenever I make decent progress. It might be a while. I've got a lot of other stuff to do. So, but yeah, cheers for watching, and I'll update you whenever I make good progress.